I've got some of the best crock-pot recipes that you have got to try. And there's just something about cooking in the slow cooker that I love. Besides being easy, these are cozy and perfect for this time of year. Hey y'all, I'm Valerie and welcome to my kitchen. In today's video, I'm sharing 6 of the best cozy crock-pot recipes that you're gonna wanna make again and again. Okay y'all, let's get started. When I seen this crock-pot chicken and noodles, I knew my family would really love it. To my crock-pot, I added a little over 1.5 pounds of boneless, skinless chicken. The recipe called for 2 cans of cream of chicken with herbs soup. I only had one, so I used one of those and one regular cream of chicken soup. So y'all just use what you have. You could also change it up and do cream of mushroom or cream of celery. I don't typically buy the Campbell's brand just because it's a whole lot more, but I had one in the pantry for some reason, so I used it. I added a little Italian seasoning that was not in the recipe, but I also added 1/2 teaspoon of salt, 1/2 teaspoon of pepper, and 1/2 teaspoon of poultry seasoning, and also 1.5 teaspoons of onion powder. Now I'm going to lay on 4 tablespoons of butter. And don't skip that part, because trust me, butter and noodles go perfectly together. Now I'm adding 3.5 cups of chicken broth. Now I'm covering this, and I'm going to let it cook on low for 5 to 6 hours. And you're just looking for that chicken to be cooked through. That chicken is done. Now I'm just going to remove it to a separate plate to shred. This chicken was so tender, it was just falling apart. I was able to kind of mash it up with my tongs. I usually use my hand mixer to shred my chicken, but I didn't even have to do that with this one. And for the noodles, I'm using 8 ounces of egg noodles, and you want those to be uncooked. Just the dry pasta. That's what makes these amazing, because those noodles soak up all that broth. You just want to make sure you stir them around really, really good. And I covered this back up and let it continue to cook on low for 30 to 45 minutes or just until those noodles are tender. All I can say is this was delicious. We all loved it, and Lacey even loved it too. That's my 10-year-old daughter. I just kept it simple and made some steamed broccoli to serve on the side. We could all just have steamed broccoli on the side every night and we'd all be happy. Do y'all have a favorite go-to crock-pot meal? That reminds me, I've done a crock-pot freezer meal before. In case you've missed that, I'll link it below. I need to do another one of those. I really want to start stocking up my freezer again. You'll want to make this slow cooker chili again and again. In a large skillet, I have 2 pounds of ground beef here. I'm just browning that up along with 1 diced green bell pepper and 1 small diced onion. And you're just going to let that cook until that ground beef is cooked through. And y'all, Sammy over at Managing the Maze has me hooked on this Badia Complete. So I had to add a little of that in. I'll link her channel below. If you don't already know who she is, you have got to check her out. When your ground beef is cooked through, go ahead and remove it from the heat, drain it, and then we're going to head over to the counter. Usually I get rid of that grease with a paper towel, but this was way too much for that. I just got a new crock pot, and I couldn't think of a better way to use it than making some good old chili. I added in that ground beef and peppers, along with 1 packet of chili seasoning mix and 1 packet of the Chili-O seasoning mix. I'm just using what I had on hand, but you can use both of either or as long as it's chili seasoning mix. I'm also adding a couple teaspoons of the Worcestershire sauce 1 tablespoon of brown sugar, a 15-ounce can of chili beans, and I did not drain those. In fact, I don't drain anything in this recipe. You're also going to need 1 can of Great Northern beans. That was undrained. 2 cans of Pinto Beans, undrained. And you can feel free to change out the beans in this recipe. Just use what you like. Now I'm adding 1 28-ounce can of crushed tomatoes, along with 1 15-ounce can of tomato sauce, and 1 10-ounce can of diced tomatoes with green chilies. And that's the same thing as Rotel. I always get the mild, and that does not make this spicy. And that is all there is to it. We're going to give all this a really good stir, and it doesn't have to be perfect as long as it's mixed together a little bit. Now you're going to cover it, and we're going to set it to cook on low for 8 hours. Or if you're in a hurry, you could do high for 4 hours. This is really good to cook on days you have to work, and you just start it before you go, and it's ready when you get home. Except for the cornbread. We love to have cornbread with our chili. You'll have to let me know below what you like to serve yours with. And here it is. It's been cooking for almost 8 hours, and it looks delicious. If this ain't some good old cozy comfort food, I don't know what is. I've heard of people serving this over spaghetti noodles, so you'll have to let me know if you've tried that. I haven't tried it yet, but I do want to. We like to top ours with a little sour cream and shredded cheese. And there's my cornbread I made to go along with it. Now my husband prefers the Jiffy mix, but I prefer this southern cornbread right here. This chili is amazing. You just gotta try it. And I can pretty much guarantee that your family will love it. And since I made cornbread, I had to show you how I grew up eating it. I don't put butter on it. I put Duke's mayonnaise on it. I put it on my black-eyed peas too. Oh, it is so good in those black-eyed peas. This crock-pot chicken Cordon Bleu was amazing. Before we start adding stuff to the crock-pot, we're going to make up a creamy sauce to pour over everything. In a large measuring cup, I added 1 can of cream of chicken soup, followed by 1/4 cup of milk. And now you're going to season this to taste. I added salt, pepper, garlic powder, and onion powder. Then you're going to whisk it until it's well combined. Now we're going to set that mixture to the side for just a second. We'll use it here shortly. I added about 1.5 pounds of boneless, skinless chicken to my crock pot, and I did cut all that into bite-sized pieces. Spread that out into an even layer, then you're going to sprinkle over 1 pound of diced ham. You can buy a package of cubed ham, but I'm just using some leftover ham I had in the freezer. Now over the top of that, we're going to pour that creamy mixture we made up just a little bit ago. And I just kind of tried to spread it out to make sure it covered everything. Next, you're going to sprinkle over about 2 cups of shredded cheese. The recipe called for Swiss, but I'm just using a combination of cheddar and mozzarella. Next, we're going to sprinkle over 6 ounces of stuffing mix, which is only half of this bag. Now all that's left to do is drizzle over 1 stick of melted butter. I covered this and set it to cook on low for 5 hours. And I set this on 6 hours only because I can't seem to find a way to get it below 6 hours. So if anybody else happens to know, please let me know. And y'all, this smelled so good. This is like the ultimate cozy comfort food right here. And I just served this with some green beans, but you could also serve it with corn, or maybe even some asparagus, or even a real good side salad. I am definitely glad that I tried this one. So you'll have to save this one because this is definitely a must try. When I'm in the mood for comfort food, I love making this crock pot beef stew. Now, the first part of this recipe, you'll do in a large skillet on the stovetop, but my crock pot happens to have a stovetop function, so I'm going to do everything right in there. To begin, you're going to add a couple tablespoons of oil to your skillet, along with 1 diced onion. I sauteed it for a few minutes just to give that onion a chance to soften up a little bit. Next, add in some beef stew meat, and I'm using about 2.5 pounds. Now sprinkle over about 1/4 cup of all-purpose flour. And I stirred it just to get everything coated in that flour. Let this cook on medium to medium-high heat. We're not cooking it through here. We're just trying to get a good sear and some color on it. And when that's done, add everything from your skillet right on into your crock pot, along with 1 packet of beef stew seasoning mix and 1 packet of brown gravy mix. Then I added in a tablespoon of Worcestershire sauce, a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar, 2 cups of baby carrots. I love carrots in my beef stew. And I also added 1.5 pounds of russet potatoes. I did wash those, peel them, and dice them. I love adding bay leaves to my soups and stews, so I added 2 of those. And now you're going to add 5 cups of beef broth. I used the Better Than bouillon, and if you wanted, you could always do the low sodium, and then just add more salt at the end if you needed to. I stirred all that together. Oh, by the way, if you're enjoying this video so far, I would really appreciate it if you would give me a thumbs up. It really does help out my channel. Back to the recipe, I covered it and set it to cook on low for 8 hours. And about 30 minutes before that beef stew was done, I stirred it and got those bay leaves out before I added in the last few ingredients. Now this is optional, but I like to add in 1 cup of frozen peas, mainly because my husband likes them. I'm going to make a cornstarch slurry to thicken it up a little bit, and to do that, I added 1 tablespoon of cornstarch to 2 tablespoons of water. You'll just want to stir it and make sure all those lumps are gone. Now pour that mixture right into your beef stew. This is really going to help thicken up that gravy. Stir it and put the lid back on and let it continue to cook for 30 more minutes. This is one of those recipes that makes your house smell so good. I mean, look at that. It looks absolutely delicious. It has so much flavor, and it's the perfect meal for this time of year. I made some good old southern cornbread to go along with it, and served it over white rice. You could also serve it with egg noodles. That's delicious too. Or just serve it on top of that cornbread. This is one of my favorite comfort foods, and I really hope you give it a try. I think you will be so glad you did. This garlic Parmesan chicken spaghetti really needs to be on your meal plan this week. I found it on TikTok. It's from Luke Brown, and I'll be sure to have his recipe linked below. I added 1 pound of boneless skinless chicken to my crock pot. Then I seasoned it with 1/2 teaspoon each of salt and pepper and 1 teaspoon each of paprika and onion powder. Oh, and a tablespoon of minced garlic. Now I'm covering that chicken with some Sweet Baby Ray's garlic Parmesan sauce. And you can use anywhere from 1/2 cup to 1 cup. Next, you're going to pour in 1 jar of Alfredo sauce and use whichever brand you like here. And I did add a little water to that jar just to make sure I got all that sauce out. Now I'm going to cover it and set it to cook on low, anywhere from 5 to 6 hours, just long enough for that chicken to be completely cooked through. And when that chicken's looking like it's about done, we're going to move over to the stovetop and boil up 12 ounces of spaghetti noodles. I'm using angel hair pasta, but you do that according to the directions on the back of the box. And when those are done, you're going to drain them really well and take them over to the crock pot. That chicken is completely cooked through now, so I'm removing it to a separate plate to shred but you can also dice it. Then you're going to add it right back into the crock pot there, along with that 12 ounces of cooked and drained pasta. And I do think anything like spaghetti noodles, angel hair pasta, or even like fettuccine noodles would work perfect in this dish. Okay, after you get that chicken and the noodles in there, we're going to add in 1 cup of shredded cheddar cheese, along with about 1/3 cup of cooked and crumbled bacon. Then just toss all that around until it's well combined. And now's the perfect time to go ahead and taste it and add some more seasonings if you think it needs it. Also, if you think it needs more garlic Parmesan sauce, you can add that in too. This was so good, a 10 out of 10. I cannot say enough good things about it. It was easy to make, and of course, spaghetti is always a winner at my house. And let's talk about the bacon. That just took this recipe to a whole new level. Trust me, you have got to try it. This beef, French onion, and potato casserole is a new family favorite. First, I'm starting out on the stove top. I'm just browning up 1 pound of ground beef. And you can season this any way you like. I'm doing some nature seasoning. It's just an all-purpose seasoning. But you could also do just some salt, pepper, garlic powder, and onion powder. You'll want to cook it until it's completely cooked through. Now remove it from the heat, and we're going to head over to the counter with it. Alright, now I'm showing y'all these hash browns while they're just pouring all over the place here. The recipe called for shredded, but I'm using diced, and this is a 2-pound bag. And you're just going to add them right on into the crock pot and spread them out into an even layer. Then on top of that, you're going to add that cooked and drained ground beef. And I know I already seasoned the ground beef, but those potatoes need seasoning too, so I added some pepper and garlic powder. Next, you're going to add 1 can of cream of mushroom soup, and I love when it comes out like that. Then a 16-ounce container of sour cream. Now you're going to grab 1 packet of onion soup mix and sprinkle it evenly over the top. Lipton makes a beefy onion soup mix, which I'm sure would be really good in this. And finally, we're sprinkling over 2 cups of shredded cheddar cheese, or you could use Colby Jack. Now we're going to give all that a really good stir and spread it out evenly. And I wasn't going to waste anything on my spoon there. Then you're going to cover it, and I set mine to cook on low for 6 hours, but it'll probably be done in 5. And I would have set it for 5 hours, but I can't seem to get it below 6 when I'm cooking something on low. Okay, this is done, but I felt like it needed a little more cheese on top, so I sprinkled over about maybe a cup or so. Then I just covered it and let it continue to cook for about 5 minutes or so until that cheese was melted. Now we're going to cover this with French fried onions. And feel free to use however many you like here. And you do want to do this last, that way they don't get soggy. It just adds a little crunch. But if you're not a fan of French fried onions, you could also do some crushed Ritz crackers. This was absolutely delicious. And I'm thinking this is one my daddy had sent me to try. Y'all know he always sends me the good ones. We all loved this one. I really hope you enjoyed this video. You may also like these. Don't forget to subscribe down below for more easy recipes, and I will see you in the next one.